This week on Checkpoint. Beaten by a boss at work.
Then he just kept on beating me in the head, in the eye.
I did eat him on the bottle. I never beat him more than once.
Denied contracts and payslips.
We just signed that form, and it didn't stipulate anything about working hours and stuff.
Unfairly dismissed and ill-treated.
They were just suspended massively in a group.
Just some of the allegations in an industry notorious for widespread exploitation. Are you happily eating out at an establishment that tramples on workers' rights?
Esethi yena uzobethatha about 50% of our tips.
All the tips belong to the company.
This is Checkpoint, and I'm Nkepile Mabuse. Tipping 10% of your bill has almost become mandatory at restaurants in South Africa, and service fees are imposed worldwide in the hospitality industry. Checkpoint intern Jabulile Mbata has spent months speaking to restaurant workers who allege they're being subjected to unfair labor practices, including portions of their tips being withheld and an alleged assault at work. Tapat Lamini and Ashley Market filmed her disturbing findings. Innocent Mbona is a former waiter at Edge's Corner Music Bar in Ferry Glen, Pretoria.
I started working there, I think end of October 2019. Everything was all right. But gradually, I just started to see some things which were not adding up.
He says the erratic behavior of manager and owner of the restaurant, Sean Philpott, should have been a red flag. But at the time, he turned a blind eye.
The boss is always there every night drinking, and when he's drunk, sometimes he's a bit unstable, or he doesn't sound nice when he's talking to other, like the employees and stuff. So, but it wasn't a big deal at first. I thought, it was just going to go away like that.
Checkpoint visited Edge's on the 7th of February. In the 2 hours we were there, we witnessed Philpott consume several alcoholic drinks while seemingly partying up a storm. While allegedly drunk on the 29th of November last year, Philpott assaulted Mbona in the restaurant's bathrooms.
I just heard the door, someone kicking the door opening, and I'm just surprised, what's happening? To my surprise, it's Sean. He just took an iron bar. He just started assaulting me in the head whilst I was in the bathroom. I still remember asking, what are you doing? Then he just kept on beating me in the head, in the eye. Then I just fell down in the bathroom. Then he just left. He went outside.
We spoke to the medic who was called to the scene.
Most injuries were to his head. There were some bruises, some hematomas, and I think he was bleeding on one or two spots. So I spoke to him. I told him, okay, can I organize an ambulance for you to take you to hospital? I definitely think you should go to hospital. I suspected that the cut might need stitches. And just to go for concussion screening and make sure that he doesn't have a concussion.
Mbona refused to wait for a state ambulance, opting to rather have a colleague drive him to hospital. He was discharged after 4 days and immediately tried to get Philpott arrested.
From the day one, when I went to the police station, they gave me a J88 form.
A J88 is a form used to document injuries inflicted on a victim or suspect during the commission of a crime.
I brought the J88 back to the hospital for the doctors to write to complete the form of the injuries that I sustained.
It took Mbona several trips over 2 months to the police station before Philpott was arrested. Checkpoint requested an interview with Philpott to get his side of the story. At first, he agreed, but changed his mind minutes before the interview. Suspecting he would do this, we secretly recorded our conversation with him.
I presume in the bathroom, opened up the bathroom, and there was quite a bit of money on there. I wasn't sure if he cashed that money. That's the only thing. But there was a substantial amount of money, and I'm not saying hundreds of thousands, but 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rand. I'd have to say it's more money than what he should have had on him, and he had alcohol on him. So he had a bottle of brandy on him, whatever it was, and I said, now what's going on? But now we're in a confined space, so I've got him in the cubicle, and what's going on? So there was a bit of a tussle, There was a tussle, a wrestle. It certainly was aggressive. I don't know if he hit me or not, I can't remember. I did hit him with the bottle. And I said, stop your whatever it was, I don't know exactly the conversation because it remained a tussle. We remained in a confined space. Okay. I definitely hit him more than once.
Both Mbona and an eyewitness deny the allegation that Mbona took a bottle to the bathroom. Mbona says the money he had on him was his tips. On the 22nd of January, Philpott was arrested and released on bail.
I was brutally assaulted, so I don't think it will need someone to question, even if you look the way I was. There was no question of what happened. You know that there's something definitely is wrong.
Next, Mr. George in Melrose Arch, Johannesburg, is unabashed about taking waiters' tips.
All the tips belong to the company.
In May 2019, JB's Corner in Melrose Arch closed down. 3 months later, owner Nicholas Kiros opened Mr. George, a new restaurant with the same address. Some staff members were retrenched. Others, like Tandom Kize, not her real name, managed to retain their jobs, but became concerned about job security.
We didn't sign a contract. We didn't have a contract. We just signed that form.
This is the form she's referring to. It's a job application form they were made to sign.
It didn't stipulate anything about working hours and stuff. So basically shift would see when are you working from this time to this time, on this day to this day, off yako to be included. And ama benefits, nothing of that sort.
Mr. George's legal representative, Bernard Hotz, told Checkpoint the form is the contract.
It would be crazy to give every employee a 30 or 40-page agreement. So every contract that they sign has a clause in to say, please make sure that you familiarize yourself with the terms of contract that are displayed on a notice board, and they confirm by signing the contract that they have done so and that they consider themselves to be bound by all of those conditions of contract.
Despite her conditions of employment having been posted on a wall, Mkhize says she remained unclear about her rights and obligations. She and others were under the impression they worked for commission and tips, but Hotz told us a different story.
They are permanent employees who get a minimum wage in terms as prescribed by legislation. They are treated in a way that one would expect in conformity with legislation.
The staff we spoke to say, as far as they know, they aren't permanently employed and were often reminded of this by Kiros.
The fact ukuthi you know ukuthi any time sokungenzeka ukuthi umsebenzi uyaphela and there is nothing to back you up, you know. So that was the thing ukuthi you make a mistake, it's either uyaxoshwa or uyasuspendwa or uphiwa i-warning. So anytime is bye-bye. That's how it is in my restaurant.
Mkhize alleges all leave that a permanent employee should be entitled to by law was never granted.
I remember, like, even when someone passes away, you're not even allowed to go to a funeral, Leo. They don't care if it's your father, your mother. They tell you, you know what, you can't go.
Mkhize and others say they were satisfied with being paid their full tips and commission, but were told at a later stage that their tips actually belonged to the restaurant.
Esethi yena uzobethatha about 50% of our tips. Ethi ngoba thina sesithola i-basic ama wages, sesithola this 20 rand per hour wage. So wathi now ama tips, they don't belong to us. So mele sisuse lento ekhanda lethu ukuthi ama tips awethu, ama tips akusiwethu.
Mkhize was dismissed late last year for stealing her tips, an offence she doesn't deny.
The contract of employment stipulates that in fact all the tips belong to the company. Because what does the company do? Insofar as your gratuities go, 50% of the gratuities which you, a waiter, get will come to you. The balance of the 50% will be distributed amongst the rest of the team, kitchen staff, runners, barmen, managerial staff.
Maggie Bowe is secretary of the Bargaining Council for Restaurants, Catering and Allied Trades. They secure and monitor collective agreements. She disagrees with the restaurant's tip policy. Bowe also says workers should be paid the Bargaining Council's agreed upon rate and not the national minimum wage.
They must have contracts, they must have pay slips, but then we have what we call commission earners. They're earning commission, but they cannot earn commission only. Because when the commission at the end of the month, the commission is less than what they would have received if they were permanent, then the employer must top it up. Of course, we do have some companies that they don't think the law is important. They'll do what they want to do.
I just hope ukuthi nje ama working conditions nje change, abantu batreatwe the way badeserve ukutreatwa ngakhona. Like ayeke exploit abantu because ufila ukuthi abantu bayamsaba and people don't want to lose if they complain, they will lose their jobs.
With two irreconcilable versions of the story, on the 5th of March, we accompanied the Bargaining Council on an inspection of Mr. George.
The company doesn't comply in some of the things. We realized that the company is using national minimum wage instead of complying with the minimum prescribed rates per hour as per Bargaining Council collective agreement, which governs this industry.
The Bargaining Council requested payslips and contracts in order to verify the information they received from workers and management during the inspection. After the Bargaining Council's inspection, the lawyer representing Mr. George, Bernard Hotz, sent Checkpoint an email stating that if it is shown that his client has in any way inadvertently failed to comply with any requirements, his client will most certainly do so. Coming up,
the employers don't play by the rules, then two things happen. The law must take its course.
Outgoing Wits Vice-Chancellor Adam Habib enters the fray in a battle between staff and managers at a restaurant on campus. Ngobile Mhlanga lives and works as a chef in the inner city of Johannesburg. In 2014, he was recruited by Olives and Plates. The restaurant chain has several popular establishments around Johannesburg. Mhlanga started working at the branch situated inside the Wits Health Science Campus in 2015.
Ngiqala ukusebenza Olives and Plates bekumnandi. Bekuright kungekho into bengisola noma kade ngingakajwayele ngingakabi kwazi okunye but bengibona ukuthi ngiyafunda ezinye izinto.
Mhlanga says restaurant management started turning up the heat in the kitchen around 2016.
Siyabhalwa emaphepheni umuntu ephuma bese count ukuthi uthatha isikhathi esingakanani ukuthi uye toilet nokuthi ubuye esikhathi bani toilet
then from there usuzozwa ngomlungu masekakutshela ukuthi hayi wena uhlala use-toilet or uhlala uselunchini.
He says they worked 11-hour shifts without a meal or break in violation of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which states that a lunch break of no less than an hour should be provided after 5 hours continuous working time.
Ngoba uthatha lunch uyakwata kumele wena uhlala usebenza ungadli, but yena ezodla ekuseni emini ntambama wena kumele udle sohamba sochayisa.
Mhlanga and other employees who were unhappy with the treatment they received sent a list of grievances to Wits student representatives and Labour Union Nahau.
Post fees must fall. We had individual staff members from Olives and Plates coming to report some cases and incidents of abuse, either by a supervisor or a manager, or instances where they were just suspended massively in a group.
Olives and Plates allegedly refused to recognize Nahau since its staff members were not officially unionized.
The employer wanted to say, no, we can't talk to you because these are not your members.
Eventually, 56 workers formalized their association with Nahau, but Olives and Plates allegedly still refused to accept their union membership. Dismissals followed.
Now we wrote to Wits management to say, this is happening, please intervene. And council set up what we call retail forum. The retail forum is where all service providers, retailers, service provider, the employer and employees come together. But clearly Olives and Plates did not understand. They just went on with their practice.
The workers went on strike on the 14th of August 2018.
Unfortunately, we did not get any results.
After several attempts at seeking a resolution, about 12 workers decided to go to the Bargaining Council and CCMA for cases ranging from unfair treatment to unfair dismissal. Mhlanga ended up working alone in a kitchen he says needed 3 people on duty at a time.
Bengipheka ngiseve kumele ngiwashe izitsha kumele ngimophe phansi ibi ngekho fair kimi ene bekumsebenzi omningi kakhulu kimi. So ngabacela ukuthi ngicela ngithumelele umuntu ozokwazi ukungincedisa lapha abazange bafuna umuntu.
Checkpoint called William Watt, a manager at Olives and Plates Wits campus, requesting responses to allegations made by staff.
I need to hear your side of the story because, allegations have been made against you. So I'd like for you to be able to respond to those allegations.
Yeah, no, I have no comments at this time.
Oh, so is that your final answer?
No, I don't wish to comment.
Checkpoint also called Apofrangos, the head manager of Olives and Plates.
Okay, this is the first time I'm dealing with a reporter, so I'm just trying to... So, Jabulile, I prefer, if it's possible, for you to send me an email and I can do it. I don't prefer to be on camera. There was an internal investigation at the university, and there's a process, and a lot of the allegations were unsubstantiated. At the university, I don't want to say too much, because I don't want to be incriminated by just trying to be nice. And I look after my staff very well.
He refused to answer questions on camera and sent us the following responses via email. On allegations of unfair treatment and pay, he says Olives and Plates disputes this allegation in the strongest possible terms. On unfair dismissals, he says Olives and Plates has followed legally compliant procedures. Our employment history shows clearly that we have always opted for progressive discipline as opposed to dismissal as a sanction. On the outcome of investigations regarding the strikes that took place in 2018, he says, the strikes were investigated by Wits University and appropriately dealt with. And finally, on violating the law, he again refutes this allegation in the strongest terms, adding that allegations of exploitation are spurious to say the least. Outgoing Wits Vice-Chancellor Professor Adam Habib says the university cannot be held accountable for the situation.
Our regulation is very simple. We have a contract that says with retailers, you can come here, you can work here. I mean, you can rent our premises, you can service our students in our university community. In exchange for that, we ask you to abide by our Workers' Charter. We ask you to abide by the Labour Relations Act. And we ask you to manage your interactions. But that doesn't mean we are the governing authority. We have no authority.
We asked what Wits is doing to address allegations made against the management of Olives and Plates.
What we can do is ask both sides to play by the rules. That's what we contracted them to do in the Workers' Charter.
And if they don't play by the rules, what must happen?
Then what should happen is if the unions don't play by the rules, or if the employers don't play by the rules, then two things happen. The law must take its course. The CCMA must come in. We are not the government of South Africa. There is appropriate structures established by legislation, and that must be taken in.
In late 2018, the Wits Legal Clinic launched an investigation into Olives and Plates.
The Wits chief operating officer is made aware of all these things. Is that not the process that they should follow?
No, I just explained to you there is a retail forum. The retail forum has to actually put and investigate the matter. There was allegation.
And we were told they did investigate, but there's no report.
With due respect, you've heard one side of the story.
Which is why I'm here to hear the other side.
And I'm saying to you, the minutes of that retail forum suggest no evidence was put.
Have you seen them?
Yes, I've seen the minutes.
Do you have proof of those minutes?
We have seen them. You are asking me.
That's perfect.
You are asking me something. I've told you just before here, on camera and off, that when I agreed to this courtesy, I entered to check. Have they an investigation? Who are these people? I've done and done. The report that is there is that the formal evidence was not put through the structures and the processes have not been followed.
The union claims it has not seen the report. These allegations are nothing new. What is clear is that very little is changing in the way the people who serve us are treated. Could we, as consumers, use our power to force change? Thanks for watching Checkpoint. I'm Ngebile Mabuse.